It's Friday the 13th, a day a lot of people consider unlucky, perhaps even to travel by air. But the same thing could be said for the last 2 weeks. Sometimes it's been an act of nature, like a United flight being struck by lightning just last night. But more often it's been mankind doing the striking. On-air meltdowns at 35,000 feet. All too real, and it feels all too often on some flights it might be the crew you have to worry about.
Come fly with me, let's fly away.
When Frank Sinatra sang "Come Fly With Me," it captured a world of glamorous travel and sky-high romance, a time when becoming a stewardess was many a young girl's dream. But that's all changed. They're called flight attendants now, and lots of them, women and men, feel like something else.
I'm the punching bag.
We've had it. The flight attendants have had it.
You're stuck. 6 hours in a flying tube at 35,000 feet.
And those hours are now often spent trapped with angry passengers packed in as tight as a tin of sardines.
Now it's like everyone against everyone.
There are no more seats.
They're mad at the financially strapped airlines that eliminated the creature comforts, cut the number of flights, and slashed the number of flight attendants.
Trust me, if the airlines did figure out a way to get rid of us, I'm sure they would. Blankets, pillows, flight attendants.
As we leave the gate, make sure your seatbelt is fastened.
The responsibility for our safety in the air may seem like an important job to us flyers, but the wages are bottom of the barrel. It's become a dead-end job.
Someone like myself made $9,700 in their last year of flying.
$9,700?
In my 20th year as a flight attendant.
Everybody's always surprised to learn that we're only paid when the door is shut. So for flying hours only. If there's a delay or mechanical, we're not getting paid.
So basically what we've got are underpaid, overworked, highly stressed employees.
There's this pressure cooker of chaos that goes up there. There's all kinds of personalities.
That chaos and stress was captured humorously in this Nicoderm commercial.
Only 2 carry-on items!
And the tensions were captured for real just weeks ago as these images swept the internet. An American Airlines flight attendant in a crazy rant just minutes before takeoff. But the still reigning king of flight attendant meltdowns is Steven Slater. He was huge news when I first spoke to him last year on Good Morning America.
I just kind of went with it.
The amazing story began when the JetBlue flight he was on from Pittsburgh landed at Kennedy Airport. Slater, a flight attendant for some 20 years, says he couldn't take it anymore.
You were being verbally abused by the passengers you were trying to serve.
Right.
He snapped, dropped the F-bomb over the intercom, grabbed a couple beers, popped the plane's emergency chute, slid down and headed for his car and drove home.
Did you know at that point that you were ending your career as a flight attendant?
Oh, yes.
This was a dramatic exit.
It was a dramatic exit.
The anger and frustration now common among many flight attendants is shared by some pilots. In their glory days, as captured in the movie Catch Me If You Can, pilots were like high-altitude rock stars.
Are you a real-life pilot?
Sure am, little lady.
Their once glamorous jobs have been shockingly devalued. Last summer, pilots protested that their pay had been slashed to half of what they were making 10 years ago. An ABC News report recently captured pilots sleeping in airport lounges rather than spending some of their earnings on hotels. But the new standard for scary pilot stories happened just weeks ago, when Captain Clayton Osborne simply and inexplicably went crazy. It was a breakdown seen across the nation when this video was posted on the internet. When Captain Osborne started ranting in the aisle, the co-pilot managed to get an off-duty pilot into the cockpit. They locked the captain out. On board that New York to Las Vegas flight was former corrections officer David Gonzalez.
What happened when the pilot tried to get back into the cockpit?
He kicked the door. He kicked the door, it almost buckled. He says, "It's me, let me in. This is where we take the plane down."
This is where we take the plane down?
Yes.
At that point, what did you do?
Well, 2 flight attendants that are there are trying to get him away from the cockpit door, and he just tossed one flight attendant, and we made eye contact. She kind of whispered to me, "Help me." And that's all I needed.
Gonzalez says they fought for 5 minutes before he got the pilot into a chokehold and felt him pass out. Only then, he says, did other passengers begin to help.
I saw a lot of fear.
In the fellow passengers?
Yeah, those people were afraid.
Just remain seated again. We apologize.
Passengers calmed as word spread that the errant pilot had been bound and subdued. The plane made an emergency landing in Amarillo, Texas.
JetBlue 191 emergency, and we're going to need authorities and medical to meet us at the airplane.
Once on the ground, marshals took the unconscious pilot into custody, while David Gonzalez was rushed by grateful fellow passengers.
One guy came up to me and said, "I had a flash of my daughter. I thought I wasn't going to see her again." I have 5 kids, so I didn't have a chance to even think of my own.
David's wife told me he is having nightmares about the incident almost every night. As for the troubled Captain Clayton Osborne, he was sent for psychiatric evaluation at a medical facility for federal prisoners. And just yesterday, he was indicted on 1 count of interfering with a flight crew, a crime that can carry a 20-year jail sentence. Was it surprising to see a pilot have a meltdown like this?
We're all people. We're subject to stresses, to pain, to hurt. Ultimately, what we need to remember is that we're all people first. Our profession and our job comes second.
Stephen Slater's attitude,
Take this job and shove it.
right out of Johnny Paycheck's Take This Job and Shove It, still lives in airline lore. All harried flight crews remembering how he swore at passengers and exited on the emergency chute.
Do you regret what you did?
Not in the least, not in the least. I say that day to me was sort of taking the reins back on my life.
Excuse us, please.
Turns out legal proceedings against him resulted in 1 year of probation for attempted criminal mischief and a $10,000 fine.
So, still worth it?
I believe so. You can only push people so far. You know, who hasn't been overworked and underpaid? Who isn't stressed? It was very resonant of where we are as a culture and a country in that moment, and still are.